Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leak's weekly news update for March 19th, 2017, where I take a look at some of the top stories of Magic the Gathering this week. Up first is a really short one because, of course, every single person knows about this, but Modern Masters 2017 was released on Friday. It's here. The prices are crashing. So as always, I want to do a very important announcement. Magic is not an investment. You should never, ever be purchasing product with the intention of somehow magically having more money than you started with. You will have less. Basically always. Play Magic because you enjoy playing Magic. Yes, sometimes you can win more value. But if you go into Magic with the intention and expectation of getting more than you put in, you're going to be in for a bad time. So make sure that you don't do that. But Modern Masters 2017 looks absolutely amazing. The draft looks really fun, even though I went 0-3 in my opening draft. I will be drafting it a few times on the channel on Spiky Saturdays. I'm very excited to dive into this format. It looks like a very fun set. So I want to know in the comments down below, how is your Modern Masters 2017 going? How did your drafts go? Did you do sealeds? What have you opened in your boxes, your packs? Let me know down below. One more piece of short, fluffy news before we get on to the two big pieces of news this week. This one has to do with Mark Rosewater on Tumblr. For those of you who don't know, Mark Rosewater is the head designer of Magic the Gathering and has been for something like 20 some odd years. Not quite the entire time that Magic has been out, but more or less the entire time. He's a great guy, absolutely loves the game, and he has a blog on Tumblr called the Blogatog where he answers questions. And he doesn't answer a question a week or a question a month or even a question a day. He answers a billion questions. He answers questions on there nonstop every single day. Now, a player asked him, why are there no graveyard answers in the Kaladesh block? And he replied, well, there's a method to our madness, and that was about it. This threw Reddit and Magic players into an absolute fit. He was ignoring their concerns and being too vague, and the usual Reddit/Magic player hyperbolic response of him being fired, or even worse in the more downvoted thankfully comments, calling for death threats and crap like that, because hey, that's what parts of gaming culture is like these days. We're everywhere. People lost their minds over this answer. And this has happened a few times with Mark Rosewater on the Blogatog, and it's really unfortunate. This time, Maro, his common nickname, responded, explaining that he's a design guy for Magic. He doesn't focus on tournament stuff. So when he got this question, he answered it from a design perspective with what little information that he could give, because of course he can't talk about future sets because they're not here yet. He's under NDAs, etc. And as we'll see in just a little bit, there's very likely going to be graveyard themes in Amonkhet. So from a design perspective, it probably didn't make much sense to put graveyard answers in this set when the next set's going to be heavily focused on the graveyard. Furthermore, I think the closing paragraph in his response is very important. He said, if generating 1 million+ words of Magic a year should do anything, it should at least make my intentions clear. I care very much for the game and for the community. My involvement here on the blog is to enhance the game and make it more enjoyable for all of you, not to be dismissive of your concerns. Mark Rosewater absolutely loves this game, and in the gaming universe, he's one of the absolute most readily available to be interacted with people that exists. Blizzard comes close with some of their executives, but most gaming communities interact in no way, shape, or form with their fans, whereas Mark Rosewater answers, as he said, questions while brushing his son's teeth, which is what he thinks he was doing when he answered this question, actually. Calling for firings, calling for death threats, and other bullshit like that is absolutely ridiculous. If you are going to jump onto the internet and start writing hateful comments and demanding somebody's livelihood be utterly ruined because of a single design decision that he didn't even really make because he's the head designer, he's not the person focusing on tournament Magic level stuff, is ridiculous. You need to give yourself a real look in the mirror to what you're doing and what you're thinking and where your priorities lie if you're getting that incensed and that upset over things like this. I love what Mark Rosewater does for this game. I love his interactivity with the community. I absolutely in no way, shape, or form am calling for no criticizing of Wizards of the Coast or Mark Rosewater himself when appropriate, but you need to figure out when it's appropriate, and in this situation, it's just not. Two news items left, and of course one is a huge one and the other is an even huger one. The first one, of course, is the banned and restricted announcements that came out a day after my first Magic Weekly update. I knew that was coming, but these need to be Sunday videos just the way my schedule is working. So the banned and restricted post-Pro Tour announcement came out, and this is the first time they've done this. Typically, they give a banned and restricted announcement when a new set comes out, and the next one isn't until the next set. This time around, they said, you know what, we're going to start doing them when the new set comes out, plus after the Pro Tour. That way, if the Pro Tour, suddenly some deck comes out and the top 32 decks are the same one, we might need to do something about that. So everybody was massively speculating and, as we talked about earlier, buying and selling cards based on speculation of what was going to happen. Once again, Magic is not the stock market. If you try to play the Magic market, you're going to lose 1,000,000 times over before you ever win. So then the banned and restricted announcement came out, and there were absolutely no changes. No cards were banned, no cards were unbanned in Standard, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, nothing. Now, I don't play too much Constructed, but I do keep an eye on Standard, and this seems fine to me. Too many bannings does result in shaken confidence of the entire product. If cards are going to be banned left, right, and center, twice a set, cards are going to be banned, I'm not going to buy any cards, because I might not be able to play with them if they get banned. So too many bannings is absolutely a problem. So I didn't really expect there to be any bannings here. As well, a lot of people freaked out saying, but the GP just before this announcement came out was just 2 decks in the top 8. 2 decks for all 8 slots. Don't take one Grand Prix finish as a pattern. One data point is not a pattern. Yes, there are 2 very, very good decks in this format, arguably 2 top decks, but Standard is never a giant, Wild West of 17 different decks competing for the top 8 slot. I've been in Standard formats where there's been 1 deck. Mono Black Devotion, Delver. These are times where bans were considered because 40 to 50% of the playing field, not the top 8, but the playing field was these decks. Yes, Standard is in a little bit of a bad place right now, but it's not utterly horrible. There don't need to be mass bannings or on-bannings. As well, 1 week later, we have a GP top 8 from, I believe, Japan, in which, surprise, surprise, of the 9-0 decks on day 1, there were 6 different decks represented, and in the top 8, yes, there was a lot of Mardu vehicles, but there was a Temur Tower and a Jund Aggro, which says to me that things are not quite as dire as some people were overreacting to. I think one very important tweet that I saw was Aaron Forsyth explaining that doing 2 times banning and restricting announcements was not meant to be 2 times the number of bannings. It was meant to give more granularity, more control over what was going on in Standard and Modern and Vintage, etc., not to just ban and restrict things left and right. To cap off this news story, I will leave you with the top post on Reddit, which I think is very indicative of the community as a whole. I'm a bit disappointed, but I also have no idea what I want, so basically, The final news story is a big one. We have what is very likely a card from Amonkhet, which apparently found its way into a Modern Masters 3 booster this weekend. It was in Portuguese, and you can see it here, and it's some very interesting templating. A rough translation suggests that the top half of the card is called Dusk, and the bottom half of the card is called Dawn, which I think would be a very cool sort of naming mechanic for this, where we could say Dusk to Dawn. If all of the cards were like this, a common phrase, blank to blank, it would be very similar to the split cards, where we had things like breaking and entering, and fire and ice, and all of these different blank and blank sayings. The top half of the card says, very simply, for 2 white at sorcery speed, you can destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to 3. The bottom half says Consequence, which is the keyword here, and it says cast this spell only from your graveyard, then exile it. So basically, in your hand, this card is Dusk. Once you play it and it goes to your graveyard, you then have this sort of extra card available to you that you can cast from the graveyard called Dawn. For 3 white, return all creature cards with power less than or equal to 2 from your graveyard to your hand. I really like this sort of mechanic. I think this is going to be really fun. It gives you sort of an extra card in hand, or multiple extra cards in hand if you play multiple of these consequence cards. I think it could be really, really fun. It just is another level, another layer of things to think about, and it gets us away from the turn your creatures sideways hyper aggro of Ether Revolt and Kaladesh, which I'm excited for. Now, I have seen people already claiming that this is going to kill Magic because this templating is ugly. I don't mind this templating. I think it's fine. I think it's cool. I think you can, maybe put this card in your graveyard in a certain way that this little card peeks out, the little tiny one. I see no problem with this. A lot of people are saying, well, why didn't they just do it like the split cards? Both of them vertical side by side. Well, because then people would want to cast them like split cards. They would want to cast either side, despite the fact that it does have that little reminder that, you can only cast this card from the graveyard. You need to make things mechanically different, thematically different, flavorfully different, design perspective different. The people claiming that this is going to kill Magic just seems to me to be another example of Magic players being really great Magic players, but being really bad at design and the psychology that goes into this, the things that you need to think about to make a successful game. I do not think this will kill Magic. I think this templating is fine. I think you need to take chances and you need to do different things to your game. Magic has been around for 25 years this year. Wizards knows what they're doing, and if they didn't take chances, if they just reprinted Alpha for 25 years straight, the game would not still be around. I think this is fine, and I guess I have to thank everybody saying that this will kill Magic because, hey, it's one more thing for my follow-up 10 other things that are totally going to kill Magic video that I'll be doing at some point. So let me know what you think about these this leak rather down in the comments below. Do you think it's going to kill Magic? Do you hate the templating? Do you think it's cool templating? Do you like this mechanic? Let me know in the comments down below. As well, let me know what you think about all of the news stories today. I'm really enjoying doing these videos and keeping up on not only the major news stories that people have probably heard about, but also the little stories like the Mark Rosewater thing and all those kind of things. Let me know what you want to see in these videos. Do you want to see more fluff, less fluff, more big news, less big news? Let me know, as always, what you want to see and what you're thinking about Magic this week. If you do have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at @TheManaLeek. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can find me at Facebook.com/TheManaLeek, Twitch.tv/TheManaLeek. I fell out of order on this. Patreon.com/TheManaLeek, where you can work your way towards earning a Mana League playmat, sponsor a draft, get in early on my set reviews. You can actually watch me as I edit my set notes day by day, and as well as very easily interact with me in the patrons only stream. So check that out for sure. If you like the content, click that thumbs up icon. If you want to see more, click subscribe. And if you do have questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.